And welcome back to Blue Shirts Buzz, where we talk everything New York Rangers. I'm your host, Matt Biscazzi, with my wonderful co-host, John Horton. Definitely check out our Twitter at BlueBuzz26, and let's hop right into it today. And this just confusing team, frustrating team. Some might say terrible team, disjointed team, lack of effort. I mean, you could use a lot of superlatives. Superlatives is not the right word. Adjectives is the right word. Superlatives describe things that are good, and positive traits. This team hasn't really been doing a lot of that over the past few days. In particular, we are here on Wednesday. So one of the worst games the Rangers have played in memory, in recent memory at least, did happen last night against the Flames. Of course, we will get into it today. Before we get into all of that, how you doing, John?
Pretty horrible, all things considered. Rangers world, Rangers town. This team has given me little to nothing to really cheer for. My optimism is slowly sinking every single day, just like the Rangers power play is, and
Jeez.
so is my confidence with the coaching staff and just like everything around. I just don't know. I mean, right now the Rangers are 33, 30, and 6. So if you don't want to look at it as overtime losses, you could look at it as 33 and 36, which is horrible. 72 points. By some grace of God, they are 1 point behind in the wild card race. This team does not deserve to be anywhere close to that. That's actually insane. But I mean, home game record wise, just bad. Roadways okay. Last 10 games, we're 4-4-2. It's just like, what the hell, And specifically, like you mentioned, the Calgary game. I mean, 13 shots on goal for a 60-minute hockey game. You lost 2-1. It was almost 3-1 because of the empty netter, but they took it back for the timing. The transitions were horrible. The offense was horrible. The defense wasn't great. The energy was not there. The leadership was not there. Apparently, Peter Laviolette gave his 2 cents to the team the next morning. Not sure what that's going to do. Doesn't seem like it's done much this whole year. And like, I think it goes back to, again, a lot of players are checked out. A lot of players don't think they're going to be here after the season's over. So I think some of them are just kind of, skating along, even though it is funny they are 1 point away from a wild card spot.
Yep. Still in the
Um,
mix.
but yeah, there's no drive, no leadership, no determination, no accountability. A lot of no's in front of this team in every regard. And it feels like how I think myself personally and maybe some other Ranger fans may feel like this season's kind of checked out. Like the season's a scratch. Things blew up, you know, agree or disagree with Chris Drury. I think he pulled the trigger a little too late on a lot of these moves. I mean, he nuked this whole locker room in November. That probably wasn't the best idea. Maybe he couldn't make those moves in the offseason, whatever. This was bound to happen at any point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just sucks. It just sucks. I think the main focal point is also how bad the power play is, and it's relatively the same power play as last year. There's like one or two different pieces, but again, the massive decline in Chris Kreider's play, be it injury or motivation, since his name's been on the chopping block, and Mika Zibanejad either not showing up or showing up. So it's tough. It's tough. I think this team has nothing in them to make a playoff push, and if they do squeak in, they're getting swept. They're not going to do jack. I think because they'd be playing because they would have the wild card 2 spot, so they'd be playing probably the Capitals or someone. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if they make the playoffs, I'm locked in. I'm sitting down. I'm watching. I'm excited. But my God, it's it sucks. It really sucks. It's like an egg on the face. So I know you still have some hope, which I think is wonderful. And any other Ranger fans listening, I hope you have the same thing. But me myself, for my own sanity and just prediction, I'm checked out. This team doesn't deserve jack because they don't give us anything. So that's me. That's how I'm feeling.
That's valid. I mean, honestly, you mirror the feelings of most of our fan base at this point. I think my optimism tends to put me on the majority, especially being a New York sports fan in general. Tends to put me on the outside looking in terms of like the fan views at most points. But I have to say, in this regard in particular, I think I am one of the few that are still holding on hope. The one retort and the one reason I have for hope has been our backstop. Igor is really the only reason that I am still slightly hopeful. And I, even saying that out loud, like there's really not a lot there considering how inconsistent he's been throughout this whole year. So I'm going based off of what I've seen from him over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 games. And, what's even interesting about that is when you go back to the 6th game he played, it was that 4-3 loss against Ottawa, where he actually had let up a stinker in that one. So even that conversation gets you to a point where Igor, like it just highlights the inconsistencies in his game this year. But I just look at the way that he's tried to basically put this whole entire team on his back and carry him up a mountain. And it is a mountain. I mean, it is a mountain. You laid out all the reasons that it is a huge mountain to climb, a huge hill to climb, whatever saying you like to use there. I mean, the lack of 5v5 play, the lack of support in the zone for the D-men trying to get the puck out of the zone is something I think we're just seeing the forwards just try and drive the offense. When there's that lack of offense, these guys that are used to scoring a lot and creating a lot of opportunities, they want to create more, so that a lot of them will kind of try and creep further up the ice and look for that breakout pass. Well, the issue with that is we're not getting enough of we're not generating enough puck movement out of our zone and through the neutral zone to get those long breakaway passes. Like you're seeing a lot of those passes just get picked off, and then we're giving up rush offense going the other way. And that's been one of the thorns in our side this whole entire year, is how much we're giving up on the rush to the opposing team. We're turning over the puck when we simply don't need to be. We're making long passes when we don't make the easy pass. We're trying to force plays when we can just dump the puck in the zone, get a change, get a forecheck going, do those types of things. I mean, when you look at the Calgary game in particular, especially towards the end of that game, that's a very important game for us in terms of positioning in the standings and everything like that. But even further than that, just winning a game, right? These guys want to win. They get paid to win. So you would expect towards the end of that game, a very close game that we were quite frankly only in because of Igor, you'd expect some drive and some hustle, right? There were like multiple times where the MSG fans were booing our players because they're literally just standing there with their stick watching as the Flames are skating around in their own zone setting up a play. Get on the forecheck, get on their hands, get in their face, get aggressive. I mean, how is their blood not like boiling? I mean, I think back to playing like high school sports and like how competitive that felt and how much energy I would get when we're down in a game and you want to make that big play. And this is the professional level. These are athletes that are 35, 50, 100 times more competitive than I'll ever be, right? And so where is that energy and that drive? It's really perplexing. And listen, I said I'm trying to be a little bit more optimistic, and I just kind of laid out all this negative stuff. I sound probably a little bit of like a hypocrite here. But with all of that being said, the thing is that Igor held up. Igor can be the key to this team making a run, making a splash, making some noise. Again, even he has been inconsistent, so there's really not a lot there. But I am at this point choosing to back our goalie here. I mean, Igor has, at least in the last few games here, he's came to play. He showed up. He's made outstanding saves, incredible saves that he had no business making, saves. And then, he does let up a little bit of a stinker here and there. But the thing is, when you have a goalie playing at that level behind you, anything is possible. So if we're able to figure out a little bit of the power play, if we're able to generate a little bit more on 5v5, if we're able to cut down on those defensive lapses even just a little bit, those small changes can add up and give us a formula to get those wins that we need. And that's where I kind of come to at the end of all of the kind of nonsense and everything I just spat out there. But that's what I come down to at the end of it, is that a few minor changes, a few minor changes in kind of our approach, and maybe some more positive play in terms of like getting the puck in the zone, getting chances, 5v5 defense, all that kind of stuff, can amount to large scale changes on the scoreboard and in the standings because of the goalie that we have backing us up. So at this point, it's really up to the guys to go out there and perform. It's really just, it's got to be really disheartening if you're Igor and you're like trying your heart out and the guys in front of you like can't even string 2 passes together. I mean, it's just absolutely abysmal. But again, there is hope there. That's kind of where I'm at. I think we'll roll into a little bit more conversation here about this power play in particular, which has just been terrible, and just the lack of offense. But before we get into that, if you want to get us a little bit of a positive word here from our wonderful sponsor, DraftKings.
Yeah, good news for everybody who's listening. With DraftKings Sportsbook, this NHL season, not new, I wish it was new, has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means that there's time for your favorite team to figure things out and games left for you to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Super easy for first timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win, not the Rangers though. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And then if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and using code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. So, yes, to get into the power play, I mean, what power play? Like it doesn't click, it doesn't work, it doesn't perform. We've moved this person, we've moved that person, we've done this, we've done that. It's just a lack of chemistry within the team. I think I hate to keep saying the same thing over and over, but I think it just goes back to people are scared for their positions. They don't know if they're going to be here in the off season, and it shows. I mean, one thing I find interesting. So we're recording this Wednesday. This will probably come out either Thursday or Friday. So the Maple Leafs game is Thursday, which I can only imagine how that's going to go. And as of today, Wednesday, they had an optional practice, optional skate. So for what that means is every player is required to be in the building for, team meetings, physical therapy, this and that. But like on the ice, skating and shooting is optional. Why? Why would Laviolette call an optional skating after one of the single worst games we've seen this team play in the entire year? Why wouldn't he call a practice and work their fucking asses into the ground? Why wouldn't he show his discipline and show that there needs to be, if they're not going to hold themselves accountable, I'm going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
And that's been my gripe with Laviolette lately with a lot of the spiraling. I do think 90% of it's on the players because we've seen this time and time again. But again, he is the coach. It's his job to get these players, whether they want to play or not to play.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have had good discourse lately of like, why is today an optional practice? Oh, because we have a game the next day. Who cares? They're professional athletes. They're grown adults. They're like, they played the worst game we've ever seen, and you're going to let them have an optional skate the next day? Skate around, glide, shoot the puck, miss the net. Okay, well, let me go stretch. Let me do my meeting. Hell no. He should round them up. He should do suicides. He should do practices, like a harder practice. He should do elimination tournament. Like he should show them that is unacceptable. We're trying to make the playoffs. We're trying to win. But no, we're going to have a team meeting and it's an optional skate if you want. So there's just so much lack of accountability in the leadership of the team because it's gone. Trouba's gone. Kreider feels like he's probably gone. Mika's Mika. I mean, I don't know why he was ever an alternate captain. Same thing with Panarin. I don't know why he's an alternate captain too. Maybe just because he leads by example with scoring, but he's barely been doing that himself, So Trocheck, I think, is a great voice, but he's also not putting points up. So this is when Laviolette should come in and whip them into shape a little more. But we're gonna have an optional practice, or maybe I'll change the lines again coming into the third period. Awesome. Oh, the power play is still not working. I mean, I guess I can't blame him too much with the power play because who else are you going to put on that? I mean, if your star players
did put
aren't going to play,
Kreider
what are you
back
going to
on
do?
there? Because when Kreider was out, I think it was Trocheck was in his spot, and then even when Kreider came back, like Tro was still in his spot, and then they put Kreider in there. So like they're trying to do, I guess, like minimal changes here and there, but it's like like you said, like what would you change? What would you do? I mean, this is what our power play has been for, over at least like over last year. I mean, you throw JT Miller in there, which is a huge addition, but barring like drastically changing power play 1 and power play 2, you really out of options in terms of who's going where and when and how and what. Really just speaks to kind of, I think, the mentality of the team and, like you said, the leadership and everything, because these are our top guys, right? Like our power play is our top guys, our top offensive producers, some of the big leaders on this team, and their head's not even in the game. I mean, there were a couple power plays last night. We couldn't even get the puck in the zone and get set up. I think there was one power play. Maybe it was like towards the middle of the game. The second power play unit hit the ice with like a minute left in the power play because the first power play unit was literally getting booed off the ice. They could not string 2 passes together. And it's like, you have an extra man. There is technically someone should always be open. I know it's not as simple as that, but theoretically, you should be able to get that puck in the zone one way or the other and get yourself set up in some fashion, right? You have somebody that is open at all times to, like, make the easy pass, make the easy play. But no, let me just take the puck into the boards and hopefully one of my teammates will be behind me. Oh, no one's behind me? Yeah, the closest guy to me is 20 feet. Meanwhile, I got 2 defenders from the other team on me taking the puck and clearing it down the ice. I mean, it's just so like disjointed. Just really speaks to the chemistry and the vibes on the team.
Yeah, there's no confidence
No.
between players and passes. There's no like, oh, I know this player is going to be there, so I can do a no look pass. Like there,
Mhm.
like you said, there was some changes yesterday where they just like they finally got possession and they just dump it, and then they like glide to the bench for a change. No urgency. I saw a bunch of retweets and people are like, "Oh, this is your 2024-25 Rangers right here, folks. Like we finally got possession. Maybe we can make a push. I'm just gonna do a half-ass dump and then, hobble back to the bench and just take my time and
Not
just
even like they're following it up with an aggressive forecheck,
yeah,
or they're dumping in that puck to then try and get in behind, get the puck, hold it up, let everyone else change, cycle the puck, get the zone. Like they're not even doing that. They're like,
yeah,
oh, we play defense for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, whatever it is. Because we're chasing the game. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. Is we're expending a lot more off energy in our defensive zone than we should be and we need to, because we're consistently chasing the game,
yeah,
which is a problem in and of itself. But then you burn all that energy and all those vibes, right? By the time they get the puck through the neutral zone, which is another challenge in and of itself, because all of our forwards are just looking for a spring pass every 5 seconds, and our defensemen are sitting there scratching their heads, wondering how they're supposed to get the puck out of the zone.
yep,
And then we end up turning it over, or you finally get that play through the neutral zone and you dump it and you get a change because you're exhausted. I mean, it's kind of just this vicious cycle at this point. I really like what you brought up though about the just kind of Laviolette in particular with like the optional skate thing. This is something that I think really speaks to just the difference in like generations of sports and athletes in general. I actually saw a video today of the Rangers in '94.
yeah,
They
yeah. I saw that
played.
one too.
Yeah, you
Yep,
saw a video too. I think it was on
yep,
Reddit, and it was like they were bag skating after a really bad loss the night before. Right, they spent like 40 minutes literally just like bag skating back and forth, just simple, rudimentary, fundamental. You're skating, you're making one pass, skating, making one pass, skating, like all this stuff, right? To work the guys, to let them know this is not okay. We are not going to be doing this. This is not something that is sustainable, right? Well, where's that? I mean, I know you don't want to exhaust these guys, but like you said, these are professional athletes. Somebody's got to be held accountable, and that's the issue with Laviolette in particular. There's really no accountability. Oh, he got on the guys in the locker room. Okay, well, did any of those guys come out and say anything afterwards? What did it mean anything? Did it hit home? What is it going to look like tomorrow? Are those guys going to come out energized and looking like they're ready to fight? Doubtful, right? Doubtful. I guess we won't know until we actually see. But something in particular, and I'm actually really curious what you think about this.
mhm.
I wonder if there's a little bit of a disconnect between coaching in the front office, because we brought in Dehan and Susi, and they played a few games, and you could say what you want about either one of their games in particular. Maybe that's why they're not really touching the ice a ton. But you bring in both those veteran defensemen to kind of give us a little bit of defensive depth. Where are they? Are either one of them playing? Have either one of them
Yeah,
played the
good
past couple
point.
games?
Good point.
No, they're getting scratched. And on top of that, we're scratching Othman, and then we're throwing Berard in, and then in a couple games Berard will get scratched, and maybe Othman plays a couple more games. What's up with that? I mean, are we going to commit to one over the other? Are we just hoping that we'll throw something at the wall and it sticks? I mean, I'm curious what you think about kind of some of
Yeah,
the roster decisions that have, and some of the scratches that have been made. Also, Kaliev as well. I mean, I know he got hurt, which throws things. It kind of throws a wrench in that mix. But
yeah, yeah. He's out for the whole rest of the
yeah,
year.
that
Yeah,
that sucked. That
yeah.
was not that we don't have the depth theoretically, but again,
Mhm.
just some of the choices have definitely confused me a little bit.
I agree. I do think it's a disconnect. I think, unfortunately, it's probably the latter. I think it's throwing stuff at the wall and see what's sticking, which is
Mhm.
horrible. But I think
Yeah,
that's
you don't
probably
want to be in that
because,
position.
yeah, no, you don't. I think it is because of um the front office. I mean, Vakainen's been kind of not great lately, but we did sign him, and we have these like other depth pieces, and
Mhm.
maybe Krister is like, hey, we did just sign him, so like let him keep playing. Like we signed him for a reason. And maybe Laviolette's like, well, yeah, but I pulled in this guy. Like, why can't we use him? But then also on the other side, we don't know. Maybe Krister is like, here's everything at your disposal, Peter. Like, do what you're gonna do, and then he just scratches him because he just doesn't
True.
want to play.
That's a good point too. We don't actually know like
Yeah.
what's really going on behind the
And
scenes.
that's what's so damn frustrating because, like, I do think the overarching issue that caused the downfall of the season, I do think it's Chris Drury because, Peter Laviolette is included in that. Like, he has 1 year left on his deal after this year.
Mhm.
And he waited, Chris Drury waited till November to start just throwing the whole roster in the blender, moving players, getting this person, destroying trust. And then, maybe Peter Laviolette is like, I can't get these guys to play for me. Like, am I going to be here at the end of this season? Am I going to play this? Am I going to coach out the rest of my contract? And I just think, like, I think what Drury should have done is either do all the moves he did in the 2024 offseason or wait till the 2025 offseason. He should not have done midseason this and that, and then, playing all this stupid hardball with Igor, and then, signing Laugh so early. Like, I don't know.
Mhm.
I think he's caused a lot of turmoil in this locker room that, is unfortunate. I do think it's still kind of a little unacceptable, like it's part of the
Mhm.
business. Like there's other teams where some players get traded and they still just like, okay, whatever, like we're going to play, we're going to win games and this and that. And
Yeah.
I think that goes back to the coach and the accountability. Like I think, but we've seen it before. Like we've seen coach after coach, like not hold veterans accountable here in New York. So maybe it is a front office thing. Like, hey, I'm bringing in these veterans, or like these are assigned veteran guys. Don't piss them off, right? So then just like ruin all the young players and scratch them and
Mhm.
this and that. So it's a tough question. I probably went around in circles and confused everyone, but I think it's a mixture. I just think everybody hates each other right now. I think everybody mistrusts everybody,
Mhm.
and there's just a lot of despair in this front office and this locker room. And I think regardless of the outcome, that might be another thing too. I think regardless of the outcome, regardless of if the Rangers don't make the playoffs or if they do, and then maybe lose in the first or second round, massive
Mhm.
changes are coming in the offseason. Like players are getting moved, this person's
Yeah.
getting traded. Like unless, I mean, honestly, even if they, knock on wood, but like even if they win the Stanley Cup, changes are coming, and I think they know that, and I think that's why Drury messed up. Like he shouldn't. Like, yeah, we saw flaws with this team before he made those trades, but it wasn't that bad. I think it was bad, and we had like issues with some players regressing, but that ruined it. I mean, that like completely
Mhm.
destroyed everything. And there's been some positives, like you move Filipino for a solid veteran, and now poor Filipino got drilled again. He's in concussion protocol. Like that was bound to happen. Like
Mhm.
if he'd ever play a full year, the Kako saga was getting draining. So I just think this offseason is going to be really telling because I don't see much coming from the rest of this season, and Drury's going to have to repair trust either with Laviolette or if he gets a new coach, the players he keeps or the players he gets rid of.
Mhm.
I would really love to move on from Mika. I'm sick and tired of him sucking and then March comes around and he decides to play hockey. Like we
Mika
can't have a
March.
yeah, we can't have a top 6 player that doesn't play until March. That's like what a bottom 6 player does. Like the little depth piece that'll just like have a spark and then disappear. That's not
Mhm.
from your top player who's shown signs of regressing
Yeah,
the
you
last
need a little
3
bit more
years.
consistency in that regard, yeah.
Yeah, and of course he has one of the most immovable contracts ever. And the Pavel Buchnevich trade, horrible. That still haunts us to this day. But that's my 2 cents on that.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it made people even more depressed, so I apologize.
No, I mean, I like the way you framed it, though, and I definitely agree that Drury has caused a lot of some of the things that are going on in the locker room in terms of, I think disjointed is the word that I keep coming back to, is just how disjointed the team looks. The disjointed, like the relationship between the front office, the coach, the players, all the above. I do have to say, I think I'm a little less to blame Drury in the fact that like some of the moves he made, some of the pieces he brought back. I mean, bringing in Borgen, extending him was huge. Getting JT Miller in that trade with the Canucks, huge as well. I like flipping the picks off the Smith deal to bring in Carson Soucy, bringing in veteran like Dahan. You make those moves and it kind of positions us in a good spot in terms of depth, like bringing in some depth guys as well as bringing in guys that are getting in the lineup and playing valuable minutes. I think his approach is my problem. Throwing the first sale sign up on Kreider, the aggressive mentality towards the Trouba situation. Like when we didn't get that done in the offseason and then you go into the season, like you said, when you start making the moves in the season, it means a little bit more. And I think it weighs on the locker room a little bit more as well. So like that's really where my problem with Drury was the approach, because I don't necessarily know that like he needed to like sit on his hands and not do a ton in season, but when you're doing it in season and the way that he did it, like throwing the first sale sign up, not being shy about saying I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you out of here, kind of thing. Like it's the same thing he did with Barclay Goodrow to basically force Goodrow out of here, and then he basically tried to force Trouba out in the offseason. It didn't work. It bit him in the butt because it made him look bad, and it kind of put this aura around this locker room right from the get go, which is probably part of what affected this team in the early season when the 20 game stretch in particular, where we were just abysmal and put ourselves in this spot to begin with. And so, again, it's his approach for me. Not necessarily the moves or the timing, but the way that he went about the business, that he, ended up making those decisions and things like that. I think it was a little too aggressive. Like at the time, I think I kind of was, happy. Like obviously hindsight's 2020. Now we're looking back in it. Like I was happy. Like, oh, Trouba's finally getting out of here. Oh, we're trading Kako. Oh, we're bringing JT Miller back. That was definitely a little bit more of a question mark, but that's actually worked out better than any of the other moves, which is interesting. I don't think either one of us really saw that coming, but it's just his approach has been the problem for me. And now Laviolette's approach as well is getting a little sus. Just the roster moves, the scratches, the sits, the plays, some of the bottom six decisions, the power play as well. I mean, just when you look at it all as one big picture, it paints a pretty ugly picture. So unfortunately, that's where we're at right now. And to kind of further highlight that ugly picture, we'll talk about the results of the games that we missed since our last recording session.
Yeah, for our first time.
Actually started off nice, dude. Like a 3-2 win in overtime against the Wild. That was a great game. We played really hard in that game. The 4-0 win over the Jackets. Some superb goaltending really helped us out in that one, but we did deserve that win wholeheartedly. That was a really good game. And even the Oilers game, you started to see it, especially towards the end of the game. But there were periods in that game where we had the upper hand. We had the puck in the zone. Like we had opportunities. It didn't help that their goaltender actually made a bunch of really key saves, and it didn't help that towards the end of the game, of course, we kind of ended up, losing it, and then we did give up that solo goal to McDavid, because we always have to give McDavid some kind of highlight reel goal.
Yeah.
But then you get to the 2-1 loss to the Flames, and that was really where we saw it kind of come full circle, and you saw this team come back to just some of the abysmal, routines that they've been kind of hammering in this year, the same things they've been doing over and over again, the really bad things in particular. So with that being said, those last 4 games, we did go 2-2, although that one win in overtime, Wild got a point out of that, whatever, who cares. Get into our first time score. You are still winning 4-2. We're really not scoring a lot, so neither one of us really,
Yeah.
but yeah, Tro scored first in the Wild game. Neither of us had that. Laugh scored first in the Blue Jackets game. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card. Cooley scored first in the Oilers game. It was nice to see him get back on the score sheet. He's been doing a lot of things really well. Love to see him. He's actually been one of the few bright spots on this team pretty consistently throughout the year. And then the Flames game, Panarin did end up getting a nice goal there, but again, didn't really mean much. And it was honestly kind of a fluke when you compare it to how the rest of the game went. All that to say that this team is just disappointing, man. I'm still, like I said, I still have a little bit of hope, I guess, to kind of tie it all together here before we get into our first time score predictions. I still have a little bit of hope. I do. I am probably one of the few fans who still believes in this team in some regard. But again, 1 or 2 minor changes to the way that this team operates can result in some huge results, huge gains. Even one win, 1 overtime loss here or there could really be the difference. Unfortunately for us too, all 4 of the teams around us, so the 2 teams above us, the Canadians and the Sens, and the 2 teams below us, the Isles and the Blue Jackets, all of them have 2 games less played than us. So that is a really unfortunate fact, that just the way the schedule worked out and everything, where we're looking right now, like that's 4 points that could swing in either direction for one of those 4 teams, right?
Yeah,
and then you get down to the Red Wings. The Red Wings are 2 points behind us. They have a game in hand as well. You have to go down to the Bruins 3 points behind us and to get to the team closest to us that has the same amount of games played as us. When you throw that in the mix, again, makes it look pretty bleak, but holding out hope, holding out for a hero here, to quote Shrek 2 there. To get us into our first time score predictions here, and I'll let you run the first one here. We are playing the Leafs probably the day this comes out, if not the night before. So you may or may not know the answer to this when listening to this. Also depends on when you actually end up catching the episode. But who do you think is scoring that first goal?
I went with JT Miller.
I like it. You took my guess, because I was actually thinking about when we brought him in that he played really well in that Bruins game when we first brought him in. Let's see. Panarin, since he's the only one that did it last night. Why not?
All right.
Who do you think is going first in the Canucks game?
Ooh, I'm going to go with Trocheck.
Okay. All right. He's looked very lively. I got to say, I mean, for somebody who really hasn't performed points-wise this year, He's
he's still,
winning. I was like, at least he's
yeah.
winning a million faceoffs, and he's playing pretty
Yeah.
good special teams minutes. Like he plays pretty good power penalty kill minutes. Interesting to see him and Miller on a line together last night. I think that was Lab just throwing things at the
He
wall.
was,
We're not going to see a lot of those line
no.
combos we saw last night. I mean, I really hope we don't, because that would mean that this team is just spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
I am taking a flyer on Meek on this one. I think he's gonna show up in Vancouver. And who do you think is scoring first in the Kings game?
I'll do Mika for that one since you did
Okay.
Mika on the other one.
All
I'm sure it'll
right.
be flip flopped.
You know what? Cooley's gonna score a
Oh,
hard fought
all
one
right,
there.
all
He's
right.
gonna get in the mix. He's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. Assuming we even score in any of these games. That's
Yeah, that's
assumption.
also true.
Right. That in and of itself is a little bit of a crass assumption to make about this team at times based on how we're playing. But yeah, I don't know if you had anything else you want to cover before we roll out of this one.
No, I think just I apologize to hopeful Ranger fans if I made you depressed. That's just how I am expressing my opinion. Like I said, if they somehow pull something off and make it to the playoffs, I'll be glued to my couch. I'll be watching. I'll be rooting. But that's why we cover this team, highs and lows. So yeah, I'll keep it brief. That's an episode. Thank you for listening. Check us out every week. Check out our socials, Twitter, BlueBuzz26, or X as it's called, of course, because God forbid we keep anything what it is. And yeah, so that's for me. I'll let you close it out for this one.
Got you. I'll close this out with a little bit more of a hopeful perspective. By the way, we didn't plan this. This just ended up being the way that things go. I tend to be more optimistic. John tends to be a little bit more pessimistic. But arguably, you are probably more representative of the actual New York fan base most times, if we're being honest. But it makes for some interesting content at times. And I, just trying to stay positive here, whether it's John or any of you guys listening here, trying to spread some positivity to my fellow fans, you guys out there, try and stay a little bit positive here. It's there. It's there. It's in our grasp. It's something that if we lose, it is wholeheartedly our fault at this point. Obviously, the other teams having games in hand definitely complicates the situation as well. We could technically do everything right and still not make the cut, but we have to do everything right to even be in that conversation. And I'm going to choose to believe that this team still has enough gas in the tank. It is an uphill battle. It's going to be an uphill battle. I'm looking, a lot of these games are away. So it's not even like we're going to be at MSG. Not that we've had much of a home ice advantage regardless, because we haven't really had the advantage with anything really this year. But again, it's there. The hope is there. If Igor can backstop this team, if we can do enough in front of him, we can see some wholesale changes. We can see some really positive stuff come out of New York. So I hope you guys are enjoying the ride. I don't know if any of us really are, but hopefully the team gives us a little bit more to enjoy moving forward. Hopefully we have some more good stuff to talk about next week. Thank you all for listening on this week here. As always, BlueBuzz26. Check out the socials, all that fun stuff. Thank you all for the love and support. Thank you, DraftKings, wonderful sponsors as well. But yeah, another episode here in the books. Wish we had a little bit more good stuff to talk about. Hopefully we do next week. But regardless, we'll be here. We hope you guys are here too as well. So thank you very much for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.